Hello and welcome to another live stream here at Plymouth Pavilions, the location for this year's Devon Business Show 2023 from the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce. My name is Paul Philpott. I'm one of the vice chairs here at the Chamber and your podcast host from Fresh Air Studios. Thank you very much for joining us if you're watching us live. And of course, if you're listening to us on Apple, iTunes Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those platforms, please do click that subscribe button. Now, we have with me two very attractive young gentlemen from the Diversity Business Incubator, Jabo Butera. Hello, Jabo.
Good afternoon.
I always smile when I see Jabo because he's the man I know who has the most number of jackets on this planet. Every time I see him, he has a different jacket on. How many jackets do you own, Jabo?
Thank you very much. I'm not letting you in the secret. No.
You're not going to tell us the secret?
I'm not going to tell you the secret.
Okay. And somebody who's a very charming gentleman from the Bank of England, Jamie Barber. Hello, thank you for joining us, Jamie. Thank you for coming down to the Devon Business Show. How have you found it here so far?
Yeah, it's been great so far. Good to
met lots of people.
Yep, meeting lots of people, making new connections.
Making new connections, and everybody's probably been asking you lots of awkward questions all about the Bank of England, haven't they? Yeah. But we'll get on to those in a few moments. Now, before we talk into more detail, let's say hello to a few of our exhibitors here. We'd like to say hello to Carbon Saving Group, Poles Apart, Devon County Council, the Train for Tomorrow boot camps that they're doing, Plymouth City Bus, and also Sway Electrical Services. So, Jamie, let's just talk about the Bank of England, all right? I'm going to ask you a really short question, but I reckon the answer could be quite complex. Can you give us a brief introduction to the Bank of England and the role it plays?
Great. So I'll try and keep it brief, although I might not be able to be quite as snappy as the question.
Okay.
So the Bank of England, central bank of the United Kingdom, two main responsibilities. One is monetary stability, the other is financial stability. We've been in the news a lot recently for our role in monetary stability, which is our efforts to try and bring inflation currently back to the 2% target that the government sets us, mainly through using our interest rates, which is a subject close to the heart of a lot of the exhibitors here today. On the financial stability side, we do lots of important stuff. We have a part of the bank that regulates banks and insurance firms in the UK to make sure that the financial system is safe and sound, and there's also a group of people that look over the system as a whole to see if risks are building in the system and trying to avoid financial crises and making sure that people's money is safe. And that's alongside a few other important jobs, such as we're the people that are responsible for printing the banknotes, and we also have oversight of some of the financial systems. So when you make a debit card transaction and things like that, we look after those systems. So we've got our fingers in a few different pies, but it generally comes back to value of money and keeping the financial system stable. You
probably find you can please some of the people some of the time, but not all the people all the time. But the reasons behind the decisions and the advice and how you operate is much more the bigger picture with regards to the United Kingdom, isn't it?
Yeah, well, certainly at the moment with interest rates going up, we're not going to be keeping everybody happy, but in the longer term, getting inflation back to 2%, will be better for everyone.
Excellent. And Jabo, the Diversity Business Incubator, which DBI, which I'll go to from now on because it's a bit of a mouthful. Tell us a little bit about your organisation.
So thank you very much for having us. And the organisation is Diversity Business Incubator. As it says, we incubate businesses. Those who want to start their own businesses, but also those who want to scale up. And it's great. They mentioned about financial stability, but we talk as well about financial freedom. For you to be able to create that wealth, and it's only you're going to be having the appetite of creating the wealth when you know there is stability. There's no point of creating your wealth and losing it. So that's why it's really important to have Bank of England here with us today.
Now, Jabo supports obviously businesses within our region, and I think it's fair to say when it comes to the Bank of England, there are probably very few people that knew you actually had regional representation. You do have regional representation. Why is it so important?
Yeah, so it's something that's very important to us. So I'm the bank's deputy agent in the Southwest. The bank has 12 regional agencies across the English regions and across the devolved nations. And our job really is to keep in touch with businesses on the ground. We have two main responsibilities. One is to gather intelligence, so we try and speak to businesses large and small. We speak to the largest employers in the region, but it's also important that we speak to a kind of representative sample of the smaller businesses to find out how they're experiencing the economy. And the reason why that's important to our policymakers is we can often find out in these conversations what's happening on the ground a bit more quickly than it might come through the official data or through the other channels that the people in London look at. And also, by having these conversations, we can get more of a qualitative feel and understand a bit more about sentiment on the ground and why businesses are making decisions. And it really just makes sure that different perspectives are considered in the bank's decision-making, which is why it's also important that we speak to people like Jabo and his contacts to make sure we can be representative of the region. So that's one part of the job. The other part of the job is every time we do a forecast or there's a big policy decision, we'll switch from receive to transmit, and we'll also be responsible for communicating some of the bank's key messages to our contacts in the region.
It's good to hear that you're having conversations with organisations of all sizes. Jabo, Diversity Business Incubator.
Yes.
The key is in the word incubator.
Yeah.
You're talking to entrepreneurs, individuals, small businesses that are perhaps at the earlier stages of their journey.
That's right.
What's the landscape like for the kind of people the businesses that you're talking to?
So, well, you mentioned about the size. It's one thing. They're all small, starting, with just a dream. All they have in their pocket is a dream. And the dream without the fuel, the launch is going to be difficult. The other element we focus on is the diversity part. I work with individuals mainly from the Black and Asian communities and the minority communities. The challenge is even bigger to accessing that platform to get to that financial independence. So that's why we work with those individuals from that particular group of communities who are looking at that journey into that financial independence for their own roots, and having the conversation with I can say the top of where the money is kind of regulated, although most of the time we don't understand between the difference, the Bank of England and the financial banks which are running the money. The Bank of England is regulating. It's not the one who gives the money. It's not the bank who to go to say, can I borrow £1,000? They're the regulators. But as the regulators, they need to have that information or that knowledge of what is on the ground, but also looking at the change of the landscape of the society. I'll bring it back to our region, the Southwest, particularly in the Devon area. When you took at the demographic representation, if you go back 5 years ago, we were still about 97% white and 3% minority communities. So if you're going to be putting people together to have that sampling of information, it's very difficult to get to that 3%. You may end up just having more people from that 97%. The landscape is changing, and with the international student and others, we're talking about crossing the 10% of individuals from the minority community. So the voice is going to be heard, but you have to be way to doing it in a structured way. And that's where DBI comes in as well.
But you say that, and I think it's fair to say that businesses that are to make that dream become a reality, businesses that are started by individuals from the Black Asian minority, they do find it harder. It shouldn't be. Obviously, it shouldn't be harder.
It shouldn't.
But it is harder.
Yeah.
Are we having the right conversations to fix this issue?
It's good to start with the conversation all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the challenge is when the conversation does not get to action, it's a problem. And I think that's why I'm more excited of being part of this podcast, as well as being a director on the Chamber of Commerce, because we are leading in actions. Enough of the talk. People can just talk about it all the time. No. So this podcast is just one of the actions, but the other conversation we've had prior, we had Melinda on the call with us, and the chamber ourselves, between the directors, we always revisit our place, saying how are we doing with inclusion, how are we doing with equity vs equality. And it's from that action we're doing on the ground, that's larger organizations like the Bank of England, they're going to be learning and saying, they're doing A, B, C, D. How can we implement that? So it's really, the conversation is one thing, but we're talking about the action after this, which is really important. Yeah.
So turning conversations into actions. Bank of England is all about actions. It's very, a very active organisation. These conversations are conversations that you're having. What sort of data are you collecting whilst you're having these conversations, and how will it help shape the decision-making process that you undertake?
So our kind of key customers, we do speak to all of the policymakers in the bank, but our key customers are the MPC, who do the economic forecasting. So our conversations with businesses around the region focus on how economic conditions are affecting them. So we'll be talking about demand at the moment. We'll be hearing about how things like the cost of living squeeze is impacting demand for goods and services. We're interested in what that means for businesses' investment decisions, and also the components which directly feed into inflation and what we're targeting overall. So we'll be speaking to businesses about how easy or difficult it is to recruit, what that means for pay decisions, what's happening in terms of inflation in their cost inputs, what that means for margins, how that shapes business decisions going forward. And so all of these different elements come together to help us draw a picture of the economy in the regions, and then we aggregate it into the economy in the country. And every time the MPC meets, in the lead up to those meetings, there'll be one of the regional agents presenting them and presenting our view from the ground. And sometimes the decision makers will be asking us to do particular deep dives into things that are of particular interest to give them a richer data source. At the moment we're doing a survey on businesses' investment intentions. Earlier in the year we were surveying on pay prospects and things like that. So it's a bit of colour, a bit of depth in that regional picture, and we'll always be at the forefront of informing them. We also take them out occasionally and make sure they get out from London and can get them in front of some of the businesses in the region.
That's good to hear. It sounds like you've got like an infinite number of data points in which you're gathering infinite amounts of data, and you somehow have to do something with that data.
Yes. Bring it together, but then it's the policymakers at the top that have the hardest call of where to take our policy tools from.
So in terms of diversity then, Jabo,
Yes.
When we think of organisations like the Bank of England, we don't possibly, or do we incorrectly, think of them as being a diverse organisation or not being a diverse organisation. I guess government in general, the government, I know you're not a government agency. Are you a government agency? Would you call yourself?
We're independent of government.
Independent of government.
We're a public body, but we're not civil servants.
Okay. But you kind of, we need to have these conversations with regards to the diversity of the talent, don't we, as well?
Yes. There is that diversity in terms of a representation. That's one thing. When you're looking, saying on the board, how do everyone is being represented, or is anyone? Because what we're talking about, the representation, the importance of it is inspiring the next generation. The big dream will be, so because at the moment when you see the signature on the Bank of England or the name appearing on the Bank of England, someone who, let's say, second generation, third generation is born here in England, they don't see that name reflecting to themselves. They don't think they own the money, they can have access to money. These are the conversations we've been having so many years ago. The concept of money acquisition in the minority community is different from someone from the white community. It's a long journey and long conversation where that element of thinking money is not for you to acquire or to own or to keep. There's that culture of just spending it.
Yes.
It's not mine, I have to let it go. While you have the other counterpart thinking it's mine, I keep it. So when you have that challenge over spending and saving and building on the financial strength. So that's the conversation for another time. But representation is important. The question saying, is Bank of England inclusive? The wish is there to go on the next level. Currently, you don't have that representation. It's well minimal. It's that appetite of changing and bringing more. It's not only the Bank of England, there's many other organizations. Even ourselves in the Chamber of Commerce, we keep saying this. We need to attract more individuals from the minority community to come on the board so that the decisions are made where everyone, all the voices have been expressed. So that change is happening in the society we live in today. The world is becoming global, and England is about taking the front, being at the forefront, saying we see the problem and we're ready to embrace it and solve it. So that in the next 10 years, we're not having this same conversation. Because it will be sad, the Devon Chamber exhibition in the next 5 years, we come back here on this show and we're still talking the same language. Now, I want us, when we come back in 5 years, me and you here, we're going to say how that conversation we had has caused this change. So suddenly, this is what we have as a number of individuals from the diverse community on our board. This is what we've done as a mechanism to improve our inclusion. We've listened to the equity vs the equality. This is what we put as a mechanism, as a policy influencers. This is what we've been talking to different organizations to improve their inclusion. So that's the big dream we want to go to. But the finances are really key, way the dynamic, people understanding the dynamic, how finances works. You talk about the cost of living. I always give back to what was more recent, and that was hitting on everyone's door, COVID. When COVID came, COVID did not choose who's going to take COVID or not. But when the statistics appears, more black and Asian people were dying from COVID. And that question came, so why? And you will find is that living many people under one roof, that many people together, what they were eating, the health in terms of food and everything. So they're on that bottom of society where there's a lot of poverty. Cost of living is the same, it's hitting, but it's not hitting at the same level. Where people are saying, I'm selling my wedding ring to feed the children. This is the memories you've kept, that you're selling to feed your families. But you have someone who's saying the cost of living is hitting differently. So my electricity bill, I live in a place where my electricity bill is 1,500, it's okay. The other one, the electricity bill is still £30. They're using a key meter, and they're borrowing left and right. So you find a lot of individuals from the minority communities in those brackets where they're still on that living on a day-to-day.
Yes.
So those conversations are really key, and that's when we're having such conversation, the changes will happen.
Jamie, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so just picking up on a couple of those points. I kind of mentioned in the introductory comments earlier, the regional agencies, the work that myself and my colleagues do. One of the things we do is make sure that we can reflect those different experiences in the advice we give to our decision makers. But just picking up on a couple of those other points, diversity within our organisation is something that's increasingly important. A couple of years ago, we actually commissioned a review which has been published looking at diversity within the bank, and so there's various efforts now to improve our pipeline of diverse talent. But also beyond that, so that's something that lots of organisations have done for a long time, trying to improve the experience of more diverse colleagues in the organisation, and targets to improve our representation amongst our own senior management. And while it's an area of the bank's work I'm less close to, I know in recent weeks the regulators, the PRA, the people that look at safety and soundness in the banking industry, have recently published a consultation on potentially new rules and interventions to try and improve diversity at board levels, and how the financial sector firms that we have responsibility for can improve diversity and inclusion.
Excellent. That's a really good positive step to hear. Bringing it back to the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce and the business show that we've had here. What do you think of it so far then, Jabo?
Exciting, really, really good. You can hear the voice at the back. I don't know if they can hear you on the microphone, those listening to us here, but it's vibrant.
Yes.
It's what I call a human expression. So here, when you hear laughter, a laughter is real. A laughter does not have a color. A joy does not have a color. So it's open for everyone, and it's honest. That's what we're talking about here. When you come and finding a place where you are welcomed by the sound of the place. You are welcome. And when you start seeing, it's a big change when you start seeing individuals from different backgrounds in terms of color. So diversity has a bigger strength, and I always tell people, use your 5 senses, your smell, your touch, your palate, and to measure your diversity. If you measure it with only just what you see, the color of the skin, then you're not on diversity yet. It has to be all together, because that's when the human element kicks in. Today, this is what's happening here. You have everything coming together. We are on that journey of making the big change. And the conversation even we're having here, some places they'll feel it uncomfortable to have that conversation. And then when you talk about, what Jim was saying about the progress the Bank of England have done, and that questioning themselves, how do we move forward? It's a lot of individuals tend to run away from it. One, they might avoid it. Two, you might find people who just do tokenism. You hear a lot of people saying, we have now 2 black people on our board. That's not what you're looking for. Then now you're using just saying, we only have 2 black people because of the color of the skin. What is the flavor they're bringing on board? What is the sound they're bringing on the board? What's that challenge or that difference they're bringing on the board? If you have all that, and then you can start being proud of those people you have. But if you have them because of the color of the skin, then you just only use one.
I don't know about you, Jamie. I can listen to Jabo all day.
Yeah,
everything he says makes such good sense, and it's so engaging. And my headphones are like vibrating with the timbre of your voice. Absolutely marvellous. Jamie, you're having lots of conversations with businesses of all sizes here at the Business Show. What questions are you asking? What questions have you been asked?
Well, in the show today, I'm mainly trying to meet new businesses, so we do get more of a mix, and so yeah, I'll be trying to get them on our books, so then we can have the confidential discussions of on all the good things like pay and employment and the things I touched on earlier. However, whenever I'm out and about at the moment, interest rates and monetary policy are usually near the top of the list.
And just to close, actually, you do have events. You do hold events in collaboration with the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce, and I guess chambers all around the country. What kind of events are they, and why do you hold them?
Yeah, so partnering with chambers like the Devon and Plymouth Chamber is really important to us. So we have a regular roundtable meeting where the chamber can invite a sample of their businesses. So as well as having bilateral conversations, we can get a group in the room, sharing experiences and bouncing ideas off each other. Which is really valuable information for us. And then when we do, as I say, go into transmit mode after a forecast, then we encourage the Devon and Plymouth Chamber to invite their members to our events so we can communicate what the bank is expecting to happen and why we've just made the policy decision that we've made.
Excellent, great. Well, Jamie and Jabo, actually, you sound like the new comedy duo, just about to, just about to be launched. Thank you very much for joining us. Sorry,
can you be our producer?
I'll do my best. I won't be a very good scriptwriter. Thank you very much for talking to us, for explaining about the Bank of England, how it works regionally, and also helping us understand, improve our knowledge with regards to the overall diversity discussion. These are conversations we must have, but as you quite rightly said, they need to be turned into actions as well, Jabo. It's all about having the complete picture. We want to say hello to the focus group training, Enterprise Rent a Car, Nespresso Professional, and also to Southwest Regional Cybercrime Unit. They are there down on the arena floor amongst many other exhibitors here at the Devon and Plymouth Chamber of Commerce Devon Business Show 2023.